All right, let's move out to the bottom of the West. So the play-in can go in a million different directions based on tonight. Tonight has some crazy showdowns. So we have the Suns at the Kings, the Pelicans at the Warriors, and the Lakers at the Grizzlies. And the Lakers will be heavy favorites against the Grizzlies, but the Grizzlies had a 3-game winning streak this month, including they went into Milwaukee and beat the Bucks with Giannis, although without Dame. So like the Grizzlies are feisty. They're not necessarily a complete write-off in that game. But to explain the kind of a play-in situation for everybody who doesn't understand it, the Lakers, the Kings, and the Warriors are all tied right now. But the Lakers, no matter what, are losing the tiebreaker in those situations. The only team they have a tiebreaker over is the Phoenix Suns. Also, all three of those teams are out of striking distance of the New Orleans Pelicans, so they cannot get up to the 6th seed. The best they can all hope for is 7. Now, if the Suns beat the Kings tonight and the Pelicans beat the Warriors tonight, and the Lakers beat the Grizzlies tonight, so all 3 road teams win, the Lakers will move into that 8th spot, and then we'll end up with the Kings Warriors at the bottom. When we get to Sunday's games, they're all more straightforward. There's the Lakers at Pelicans. That's a tough game. But Suns at Minnesota, that's a tough one for the Suns because the Wolves are probably going to be fending off Oklahoma City at that point and need to win that game. And Minnesota at home in a must-win game, you're probably going to pick them there. But the Warriors have an easy game at home against the Jazz, and the Kings have an easy game at home against the Blazers. So if the Kings and Warriors win tonight against the Suns and the Pelicans, then the Lakers will probably end up at 10. So like it could go in all of these different directions. So I don't even want to try to like sort out who's going to end up where, because that's just to me a complete and total crapshoot. So I look at it like this. I think all of these teams, except for the Pelicans and the Kings, meaning the Suns, the Lakers, and the Warriors, are teams that have legitimate threat to go make some noise in the postseason. So the way you look at it is, if you're for real, you got to be able to go win this 1-game sample to be able to get into the postseason. No different than winning a game 6 when you're down 3-2 and you got to go on the road, or winning a game 7 if it's a series that's tied, right? Like it's playoff basketball at this point. So from that standpoint, let's just look at the strengths of the teams. Who do we think are going to be the 7 and the 8 seeds when the dust settles from all of this? And I'm not talking about which one goes where. I'm just saying who's going to be in those spots. Who's going to be 6? Who's going to be 7? Who's going to be 8? Carson, you go first.
So I'm going to predict that the Pels stay at 6, even though they do have like 2 competitive games remaining. I think the Suns are at 7 because they do have this advantage in terms of record. And you said we don't want to get too into the particulars of the matchups, but if they had anybody other than the Lakers in that 7-8, like I would pick them, then I just think the ceiling they do have because of their shot creation, their offensive skill, the level they can defend at when they're engaged is not the highest, but I like that formula. The Kings to me are just like a clear weakest out of this group, especially post Herter, but especially Malik Monk injuries. Like since he went down, they're 3-5. They've looked very uninspiring. I just think like the dribble penetration, the shot making, the playmaking he brings is super important. So I kind of rule them out. And then for the 8 seed, Lakers, Warriors, I do still believe in the Lakers more. The Warriors are playing really good basketball. They are playing their best basketball of the year. They are defending at a high level. It feels like all of the key players outside of maybe Steph, who like hasn't been his best, but are just kind of in rhythm right now. You've gotten a more aggressive, consistent Wiggins, but the Lakers are a brutal matchup for the Warriors because of their overwhelming size advantage. And I think that, of course, it was a different iteration last year because they also had much better answers in terms of point of attack defense for Steph Curry, and they were able to just kind of hassle him throughout that series. Even though he still dictated things, they don't have that sort of point of attack defender healthy and available right now at the very least. But I just think AD is a problem for the Warriors. They have not had an answer for him whatsoever on the interior, on the glass, and defensively, like in a single game or in a playoff environment. He's the guy who I want most on the planet. Same goes for like single game LeBron, who offensively, since the All-Star break, has been so absurdly good, over 27-9 on 67% true shooting. And I just think like, when it comes down to it, he's going to hunt the mismatches he wants. He's going to get what he wants at will. When he is shooting like this, what a lethal offensive player. So to me, The Lakers just have more firepower. They have two superstars. The Warriors have one, and they have one who I still absolutely believe in, but has been more erratic as of late than really any stretch in recent memory. But it's ultimately about the offensive burden that Steph bears and the lack of shot creation around him. Where even if you didn't have crazy LeBron, like, would you be shocked if D'Lo and Austin Reeves combined for 45? Of course not. Like, they're totally capable of doing that. And then I still like the Lakers the most in terms of playoff prospects out of all of these play-in teams. I just think their path, they're probably going to have to come from that 9-10 game. It may be that they don't, but it just feels like these teams are going to be playing so hard. I think the Kings maybe end up in the 10, but I like the Lakers more than the Warriors. And so I would go Suns and Lakers in the 7 and 8.
I'd also go Suns and Lakers. I think LA, if they have to travel again, I don't want to get too much into theoreticals. If they have to go to Golden State, I think that's a tough draw first round. But as I know you've mentioned, Jason, I think it was a social clip a couple of weeks ago. You know, the Lakers have been a great team with their backs against the wall, against great competition. They're always going to be super physical. They're always going to be great on the glass. And then, like what Carson said, you got AD and LeBron, man. I can bank on those guys handling business. And it really is sad that the Lakers have dug themselves this hole and they've made this bed for themselves. I don't know. It's funny. You were talking to Jason, I think last show, or about the stretch after the in-season tournament. And it was like after they won the in-season tournament, it was like, all right, guys, let's take the foot off the gas, man. We already did it. You know, we're gonna be great come playoff time. They took that stretch for granted. I still do believe in the Lakers. And then, yeah, in one game scenarios, I think Golden State, the role players have been playing better. I think Steph has to go crazy. And I'm not saying that's not possible, but they're a slight team, been inconsistent. I don't believe in Sacramento. I'm a Kings fan, but without Herter and Monk, it's tough. The Kings seem to have the Lakers number, though. So I don't know. I think Kings Lakers is going to be a really interesting matchup. Just Sabonis is so strong. Like, he's just physical. He matches up with AD really well. But I'm going to err on the side of the teams with two superstars. The Suns have KD and D-Book, and I think they are going to go crazy. And then the Lakers have LeBron and AD. It's ironic that, you know, at the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to. Is I'm just going to trust the teams with the most superstar talent to propel themselves. So, yeah, I would take Phoenix probably in the 7 spot, and then LA. And
yeah, I got this on social, but I didn't have a chance to say it on the show. These were the crazy Laker stats that I found the other day. During the 3-10 stretch after the in-season tournament, when Darvin Ham was playing Cam Reddish and Taurean Prince 59.2 minutes per game. During the same span, Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt were barely playing 40 minutes a game. D'Lo was playing the same amount of minutes as Cam Reddish. This is the haymaker, though. In over 2,600 possessions, with Cam Reddish and Taurean Prince off the floor this season, the Lakers have a plus 9.3 net rating for cleaning the glass, which, for perspective, and again, this is never apples to apples because the Timberwolves have played some bad lineups this year too, but the Timberwolves have the second best net rating in the league, basically at plus 7. So to give you an idea, the Lakers, if you just remove the Cam Reddish and Taurean Prince minutes, have performed like a bona fide championship contender in a massive, massive sample size. That's how much of a catastrophe that specific issue has been, which is why I have still to this day, I had another tweet yesterday, like why is he talking about a 10 seed in the Western Conference? And it's like people just, they struggle to sift through that, especially the Western Conference. To me, again, even the Warriors to me belong in the same conversations as these other teams in the West. They probably deserve to be at the bottom of that list, but the thing with the Warriors is they haven't been very good against the good teams in the league this year. That's their main kind of gripe that you have to point to. The Lakers have 17 wins against teams in the top 10 in point differential, which is the best, tied with Oklahoma City for the most in the league, and they are 5th in point differential against the teams that are in the top 10 in point differential. So the Lakers have been consistently good against the good teams in the league this year. Here's kind of how I look at this situation if I had to predict what's going to happen. The Warriors are really good, especially playing against limited teams or teams that I don't think are particularly good. For instance, the Pelicans, their starting 5 with CJ McCollum and Herb Jones and Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson and Jonas Valanciunas, that starting five has a negative net rating this year somehow. They're just, to me, the Pelicans have always been the most fraudulent of those teams that are consistently in the mix there in the Western Conference. So I think that the Warriors will beat the Pelicans tonight at home. And again, Pelicans can win that game. I'm not trying to write them off. They put length on Steph. Steph has a rough night. Other guys don't make shots. They could very easily lose that game. But I'm going to pick the Warriors tonight. I do think the Suns will go into Sacramento and beat the Kings. So that would put the Lakers up into the 9 spot, the Warriors into the 8 spot, and the Kings down at the 10 spot. From there, if the Lakers beat the Pelicans and the Suns beat Minnesota, that would be the ideal outcome for the Lakers, because that would kick the Suns up into the 6th seed and the Pelicans at the 7. The Lakers would still be at 9, but then the Lakers would have a home game against the Kings, and then they would get to play the loser of Golden State versus the Pelicans, which I think are better matchups for them. The Lakers did get their butt kicked by the Suns the last time they played them, so that could be a little bit of a concern. The Kings have been a bad matchup for the Lakers, but without Malik Monk in the equation, they can key in on De'Aaron Fox more, and I just think it gives them a substantially better chance of winning that game. So that I think is the most likely outcome. I don't think the Suns will necessarily beat Minnesota. That's a tough one. And the problem is like, if Oklahoma City beats Milwaukee tonight and Minnesota beats Atlanta tonight and Denver beats San Antonio tonight, then Minnesota and Oklahoma City both need to win on Sunday to maintain their standing, or if Oklahoma City, that is still in flux for the 2-3. And that obviously is home court advantage for the conference semi. So that's a substantial reward that you're fighting for there. And both of those teams are going to want home court advantage because they're young, they're athletic, they feed on their defense, so on and so forth. So looking at it from that perspective, I think the Wolves will beat the Suns. So my best guess is we'll have Pelicans at 6, and then it'll be Suns Warriors in the 7-8 game in Phoenix. And then it'll be Lakers Kings in the 9-10 game. I think the Lakers will beat the Kings. I think Suns Warriors could go either way. But regardless of who wins that game, I would pick the Lakers to win on the road against the loser of that game. So it's going to either be Pelicans Suns Lakers or Pelicans Warriors Lakers is my best guess. If I had to pick, gun to my head right now, I'm going to go Pelicans Suns Lakers as the 6, 7, 8 right now. So that was a mouthful. That was a very, very confusing type of situation, but that's kind of the way I see it breaking down. And then we have a good chance of seeing Lakers Nuggets in the first round, which would be at least if I'm LeBron there, and I'd rather face the Nuggets later on, but if I'm LeBron there, I'm sitting there thinking like at least we'll find out right away off the start here. I won't have to go through a month-long war with somebody before we see the Nuggets. So